You're scrolling through job listings. The posting says bachelor's degree preferred but not required. You feel hope. You hit apply. Here's what happens next. Absolutely nothing. Your application disappears into the same black hole as the last 50. And you start wondering, did they actually mean what they said about skills over degrees? Spoiler, most of them didn't. But some did, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to find them and how to be the exception. Here's a number that should make you furious. 85% of companies now claim they use skills-based hiring. 85. That sounds like progress, right? But Harvard Business School dug into the data. They tracked what actually happens after companies remove degree requirements. The answer? Almost nothing changes. Fewer than 1 in 700 hires are actually affected by removed degree requirements. 1 in 700. That's not a policy change, that's a press release. So what's actually going on? And more importantly, how do you become that one person? That's what we're breaking down today. Let's rewind for a second. The skills-based hiring movement started with a promise to the 62% of Americans who don't have 4-year degrees. The idea was simple. Stop using college diplomas as a proxy for competence. Start evaluating what people can actually do. Major companies jumped on board. Apple, IBM, Google, Delta, Walmart. One by one, they announced they were dropping degree requirements for thousands of roles. The headlines were everywhere. The degree is dead. Skills trump credentials. LinkedIn exploded with optimistic takes about a new era of meritocracy. And to be fair, something real was happening. By January 2024, 52% of job postings included no education requirement, up from 48% in 2019. Companies weren't just talking, they were actually removing the checkbox from their job applications. Progress, right? Here's where it gets complicated. Removing the requirement from the job posting is step 1. But it's not even close to the whole story. Harvard researchers tracked thousands of job postings before and after companies announced skills-based hiring initiatives. What they found was brutal. 53% of companies formally removed degree requirements for at least some roles. That's the good news. Now here's the bad news. Despite all those policy changes, actual hiring behavior barely shifted. The recruiters screening resumes? They still filtered for degrees. The hiring managers making final calls? Same old preferences. The policy said skills-based. The practice said show me your diploma. And candidates without degrees kept hitting the same invisible walls. The numbers tell the story. When 85% claim skills-based hiring but fewer than 1 in 700 hires reflect it, that's a credibility gap you could drive a truck through. But here's where it gets interesting. Not every company is faking it. Some actually changed how they hire, and the results are fascinating. IBM removed degree requirements from over half of their US job openings, but they didn't stop there. They actually tracked what happened to those non-degree hires. The findings? Non-degree hires performed on par with their degree-holding colleagues. Same productivity, same quality, same outcomes. The degree didn't predict anything. And it wasn't just IBM. Companies like Apple, Cigna, ExxonMobil, GM, Target, and Walmart saw real results when they committed to actual skills-based hiring, not just the press release version. These companies hired 18% more non-degreed workers on average after implementing true skills-based practices, not 18% more applications, 18% more actual hires. But here's the number that should really get your attention. Non-degree workers hired into roles that previously required a degree saw an average salary increase of 25%. 25%. That's not a cost of living adjustment. That's a life-changing jump. And it's available to candidates who know how to position themselves for these opportunities. There's another number worth knowing. At companies leading in skills-based hiring, non-degree hires have a retention rate 10 percentage points higher than their degreed colleagues. Think about what that means. People who get hired for their skills, not their credentials, tend to stay longer and perform better. They've got something to prove, and they prove it. So we've got two realities happening simultaneously. Most companies are paying lip service to skills-based hiring, but a smaller group is actually doing it and seeing real results. The question for you isn't whether skills-based hiring is real, it's how to find the companies where it's actually real and position yourself to succeed there. Here's your first move. Stop applying randomly. Start targeting companies with proven track records of actually hiring non-degree candidates. IBM, Delta, Google, Apple, Walmart. They've got the receipts. These aren't just companies that remove degree requirements. They're companies that Harvard documented as actually increasing non-degree hires. That's a different list entirely. Second move, and this one's critical. Build a portfolio of demonstrable skills with specific, measurable outcomes. Not strong IT skills. That means nothing. Completed Google IT support certificate and resolved 150 support tickets with a 98% satisfaction rating. That's a portfolio entry. That's proof. Third, consider industry-recognized certifications, CompTIA, ASIG-BI, Google Career Certificates, Salesforce. These function as degree-equivalent signals for recruiters who actually care about skills. Here's something U.S. tech solutions analysts predicted, and it's already happening. By 2026, the resume will no longer be the primary hiring document for skills-based roles. Instead, competency profiles, validated assessments, and AI-driven matching are defining how forward-thinking organizations identify talent. The companies using these tools are the ones actually hiring for skills. So here's move number 4. Seek out companies that use skills assessments in their hiring process. If they're testing what you can do, they're less likely to filter you out for what school you attended. You can often tell from the application process. If they send you a coding challenge, a writing sample request, or a case study, that's a good sign. They're looking at output, not inputs. Fifth move, and this one bypasses the whole system. Network into companies where you can demonstrate skills directly. Referrals often skip the automated filters entirely. Think about it. When someone vouches for you, when they've seen your work firsthand, no ATS is scanning your application for a degree field. You're already past the gates. Now, I want to be real with you. Not every path opens without a degree. Some industries, medicine, law, certain engineering fields, have credentials baked into regulatory requirements. But in tech, sales, marketing operations, customer success, project management, the door is open wider than it's ever been. If you know where to push. The numbers back this up. Job postings with no education requirement increased to 52% in January 2024. That's up from 48% just 5 years earlier. And skills-based hiring adoption has accelerated dramatically. In 2022, 57% of employers reported using these practices. By 2023, 73%. By 2024, 81%. Yes, most of that is rhetoric. But rhetoric precedes action. The conversation has shifted, and the companies genuinely committed to change are identifiable, if you know what to look for. Look for companies publishing outcomes data, not just policy announcements. Real skills-based hiring leaders talk about their non-degree hire rates, retention metrics, and performance comparisons. If a company only talks about removing requirements but never shares what happened after, they're probably still filtering the same way they always did. Here's a practical tip. When you get an interview, ask directly, what percentage of recent hires in this role came without traditional 4-year degrees? Watch how they respond. If they light up and share specific numbers, you're in the right place. If they get uncomfortable or pivot to vague platitudes, you've got your answer. Let's talk about the critics for a second. Some argue skills-based hiring is performative DEI theater. Companies get positive press without changing outcomes. And based on that 1 in 700 statistic, they're not entirely wrong. A lot of companies are playing PR games while maintaining the same hiring patterns. But the defenders point to IBM, Delta, and others as proof the model works when properly implemented. And the data supports them too? The truth is probably both things simultaneously. Some companies have genuinely transformed. Many others have only changed their job postings. Your job is to tell the difference. So let's bring this back to you. The degree isn't dead, not yet. But its grip on the job market is loosening. And for candidates who play this strategically, real opportunities exist. Target companies with proven outcomes, not just policies. Build portfolios with specific metrics, not vague claims. Earn certifications that signal competence to skills-focused recruiters. Apply to companies using skills assessments. They're the ones actually measuring what matters, and network your way past the automated filters that still screen for degrees despite policy changes. If this kind of strategic career intel is useful to you, consider subscribing. We put out new episodes every week breaking down the unwritten rules that actually move the needle. Remember, when Harvard says fewer than 1 in 700 hires are affected by removed degree requirements, that's the average across all companies. The number at IBM, Delta, and actual leaders is dramatically higher. You're not trying to beat average odds. You're trying to find the companies where the odds are stacked in your favor and position yourself to win there. The skills-based hiring revolution isn't happening everywhere, but it is happening somewhere. And for candidates willing to do the work to find those companies and prove what they can do, the opportunity is real. Here's your cheat code for this week. The degree requirement isn't dead, but it is dying at specific companies. Your job is to find them. Target the proven leaders. Build proof of what you can do, not claims about what you know. Network past the filters. And when you interview, ask the question that separates real skills-based hiring from the press release version. 1 in 700 is the average, but averages include the companies faking it. Focus on the leaders, and your odds change completely. Now go find your door.